My friends, welcome back to another episode of Boozin on a Budget right here on Titan TV. So tonight, I want to start by showing you guys the most viral piece of social media I have done to date. It currently has 515,000 views and 12.8 thousand likes on the TikTok. It's poking fun at the popular show Yellowstone, and we're also going to talk about them using Buffalo Trace whiskey products in the show, which is what this whole TikTok is about. Let's give it a look, and then we'll talk about it.
So because there's a show called Yellowstones, and these cowboys ordered double Buffalo Traces, and this cowgirl seems to prefer Weller, nobody will ever be able to find Buffalo Trace or Weller 12 ever again.
All right, so right off the top, I did something that I knew would poke the bear. I know the show is called Yellowstone, but I called it Yellowstones, which of course people all up in the comments, it's called Yellowstone, not Yellowstones, you're stupid. We do this for engagement, right? Creators know this. Anything that can get people to comment, which is specifically why I did that, Yellowstone. So now I lovingly call it Yellowstones. But in the show, in that clip, they ordered some Buffalo Trace in one of the scenes in the show. And then another scene in that show, the gal there was pouring some Weller. These are two whiskeys from Buffalo Trace Distillery, arguably one of the most popular distilleries in the country. It's in Frankfort, Kentucky. A lot of good bourbon. Doesn't have to come from Kentucky to be bourbon. However, tons of great bourbon comes from Kentucky, so Buffalo Trace Distillery is in Kentucky. One of the things that you need to know is that since this boom in bourbon in the last 7-ish or so years that really people have started going absolutely nuts for bourbon again, some bourbons are hard to find. And so that just drives the demand. The scarcity drives demand. And Buffalo Trace products are some of the most sought after whiskeys. I mean, people go nuts for this stuff. And I think the distillery and the distributors and the manufacturers, they have caught on how to really drive demand, again, through scarcity. So there's parts of this country where you can't find Buffalo Trace. I'm in Las Vegas, Buffalo Trace is all over the place. But there's parts of the country you can't find it. Or you can find it and it's marked way up above retail. Bottle of Buffalo Trace, I just saw it at Walmart for 22 bucks. 22 to 26 bucks is retail for Buffalo Trace. Other places have it up for 100, 200, 300 bucks, ridiculous. But it's a hard to find whiskey. So in the TikTok, when I say, I actually made that TikTok because after that Yellowstone episode, people were saying, well, there we go, we couldn't find Buffalo Trace or Wellers before, Weller 12, now we're never gonna be able to find it. Because they thought once it's on the show, people are just going to go even more nuts for it than they already are. So that's what I was really poking at, really playing at, is that, well, we're never going to be able to find it again. And of course, that touched a nerve with the bourbon community. And so that, I believe, is what really drove that TikTok to go viral, because they started complaining, you're right, we'll never be able to find it. Other people were saying, you're stupid, I can still go down and get it. So again, it just really touched a nerve with the community. So let's talk about Buffalo Trace. They have a ton of highly sought after whiskeys. Eagle Rare is one that I just happened to find this. This one's really hard to find in Vegas, actually. All over, actually. This one is not easily attainable. So I feel lucky that I found this one. E.H. Taylor. This one, really hard to find, or much higher price in retail if you do find it. Probably one of the best well-known ones is Pappy Van Winkle, or the Van Winkle line. Blanton's. People go absolutely nuts for Blanton's. That's another thing where everybody's hunting for it. Prices have gone out of the roof. People say, that one's crap, you shouldn't look for it. It's just, people go nuts for Blanton's. George T. Stagg is another one. Sazerac, Elmer T. Lee, the W.L. Weller line, which is in the show. Old Charter, Benchmark, Ancient Age, a couple other ones in there. But Buffalo Trace, they have so many whiskeys that people are clamoring for and that are hard to find. And again, they're playing that game, making them scarce. Parts of the country have it, other parts don't. People are losing their mind for Buffalo Trace. How did this all start? Well, one of the biggest things that you can look at is there's actually a show on Netflix called The Heist. It's all about employees at Buffalo Trace who literally were stealing cases of Pappy Van Winkle and then reselling it to their friends. They're basically saying, oh, you know, they'll never miss a couple cases of Pappy Van Winkle. I'm just gonna take that in the back of my truck, sell it to my friends, make a little side money, and then it just grew and grew. And in that Netflix show, The Heist, this guy actually went to jail for this. This was a big deal. But I think that really started kind of the myth of Pappy Van Winkle. Like, it started with this heist and it started to grow. It became this mythological thing. Not to mention, I've never had Pappy Van Winkle, but it has to be good for all the fanfare that goes around it. Another thing really ultimately that I think is driving some of the scarcity of not only Buffalo Trace, but a lot of the American bourbons that are so popular right now, is that, like I said, it's been booming for 7 to 10 years, where it's really coming to the forefront of craft cocktail and whiskey drinkers searching for all these bourbon whiskeys. And one of the things about bourbon whiskey is it has to be aged at least 2 years in order to be labeled bourbon. But most of them go for 4, and I would say even more of them go for 6 to 12 years. So, you know, 6 to 12 years ago, they didn't really know that bourbon was going to boom like this. So they didn't make enough bourbon to meet the demands now. I'm sure they're making it hand over fist now. But the fact that you have to age bourbon makes it a little bit harder to get, makes it, you know, takes longer to produce. So that's partly why some of these are hard to find as well. So if you see Buffalo Trace or E.H. Taylor or Eagle Rare or Blanton's out in the wild, now that's a term for you just happen to stumble across it in a liquor store. I saw it out in the wild, as opposed to getting it off the black market or buying it off the internet or actually going to the distillery. You found it out in the wild. So if you see some of those out in the wild, check them out. If they're not overly priced, I'd say buy them, give them a shot. The funny thing is, I just mentioned to the black market, now there's a black market for whiskey. So I happen to have this Eagle Rare, which is a store pick. I think I paid like $45. Eagle Rare is like a $45 bottle of whiskey. But if you can't find this where you live, I might take this and say, hey guys, go on one of my groups, one of my whiskey groups, and say, I got an Eagle Rare, sell it to you for $100. Somebody out there is going to be like, well, I want that Eagle Rare. I'm going to come up on, $50 on the bottle because I sold it for $100, bought it for $50. So this black market is happening. Very interesting result of all this stuff as well. But really the funny thing is, I want to kind of point out, back in the day, I'm dating myself here, but people were lining up around the block trying to find Cabbage Patch Kids or Beanie Babies, or I think Tickle Me Elmo was something people were lining up for. You now have grown men lining up the day before at liquor stores and stuff like that to get some of this Buffalo Trace and other bourbon products. They're lining up, grown men. At the Buffalo Trace distillery, there's like a line that wraps around the building just so they can get in and get their hands on some of this stuff. I think that's fascinating. So given the scarcity of Buffalo Trace and Weller 12 on the market and everything I just described from the Buffalo Trace distillery, that is why I believe that TikTok went so viral. It really touched a nerve. I poked the bear, and here I am sitting at 500,000 views on TikTok on one of my greatest viral videos ever. All right, my friends, let's move along to my next segment, binge thinking. We're going to stay in the whiskey realm of the world. It is my wheelhouse. I love my bourbon whiskey, but I wanted to talk about, how do you drink it? What's the right way? What's the wrong way? There's really no wrong way. The line that we love to say is, you drink it the way you like it. Now, certainly I have some opinions on how to drink it, and we'll get into those. I prefer to drink it neat, which means just no ice, nothing else added into it, just a straight up pour of whiskey in a Glencairn glass, a nosing glass. This is designed, this bowl here will catch the very nice bourbon smell and go right on up to the top. You switch it around, give it a smell, and drink it. I like to sip my bourbon neat. Other people like to put it in a rocks glass, put a little ice in there, put their bourbon over the ice. The ice will melt a little bit, dilute the bourbon, open up some of the flavors. I happen to have one of these. This is an ice ball mold. You can see it here. Put that on just like so. Fill the water up in this hole in the top, put that in your freezer, then you have a really nice round piece of ice to pour your bourbon over. Another thing people will do is maybe in a rocks glass or a Glencairn glass, they'll pour their whiskey neat, and then they'll just put literally a couple drops of water, like from a dropper. 1, 2, 3 drops of water. I like it like that because it'll open up, it'll give you a little bit different sense of that whiskey. It'll open it up a little bit. Occasionally I will put my whiskey over the rocks. I don't really like it to be diluted too much. A couple drops of water is great. In a glass full of ice where it melts and stuff, I don't like too much dilution. Also, I'm a strong believer that ice kind of closes things down, right? That's why I don't put my whiskey in the refrigerator or the freezer. When it's cold, it kind of closes things off. Same thing with wine, right? We want to serve things at the right temperature. Whiskey I love at room temperature. You'll see people, they got bottles of stuff in their freezer. Maybe if you have a really bad whiskey or something really awful, like, you know, if you have, like back in the day, we put our really rough tequila or vodka or whatever it was, Jägermeister, you throw it in the freezer because it helps it go down a little bit better. Well, why is that? Well, it's because it's kind of tamped it down. It's closed it up, makes it a little bit more palatable. I'm not spending my money on good whiskey to close the flavors off. So that's why I don't really like it on ice. Sometimes I'll do it just to see if it, you know, maybe what that does. It gives me a different experience, but generally room temp in a Glencairn glass. However, you should drink it the way that you like it. If you like it on ice, drink it on ice. If you like it with a splash of water, drink it like that. Drink it the way you like it. But that's just a little bit about how we drink our whiskey. All right, my friends, moving right along to my next segment, the drink of the week. I want to talk about the Voodoo Ranger series from New Belgium Brewing. New Belgium Brewing started in Fort Collins, Colorado, way back in the day with Fat Tire. Fat Tire was one of those craft beers that kind of started showing up on tap handles in bars and restaurants as kind of one of the first, you know, forerunners of craft beer. I remember, you know, Fat Tire, they had the little bike tire bell on on some of the tap handles. And I liked Fat Tire. It wasn't bad. It started opening people's minds up to getting them away from some of the domestic, you know, Budweiser, Bud Light, Coors Light, those types of things. Fat Tire from New Belgium was one of the front runners. Now, generally, when it comes to my beer especially, I like some of the smaller producers, some of the local brewery stuff. I'm really all about that. Nothing against the major conglomerates, but I kind of tend to lean towards some of the smaller produced stuff. New Belgium Brewing has since been bought out, you know, some years back by a major conglomerate. However, the Voodoo Ranger series, I will stick by this. It's an excellent series for beer. One of my previous episodes, we used the Juice Force IPA, Hazy Imperial IPA, for about a demonstration on how you should pour your beer the right way to get some of the CO2 off. Go back and check out my previous episode if you want to see that. Once I started drinking this beer, man, I fell in love with it. It is one of the newer iterations of the Voodoo Ranger series. This stuff is crazy tropical IPA. It is so good. So good. Even my roommate, Big Al from Throne Breaks, he is not an IPA guy, as a lot of people aren't. Even he likes this one, so that's pretty high praise for him. But another new one from the series is the Fruit Force Fruit Punch IPA. I have not had this one yet, and so I am looking forward to trying this. So I'm going to open this up and pour it, and we'll talk about it. Other beers in the Voodoo Ranger series include Voodoo Ranger Imperial, a Juicy Haze, and just a standard IPA. They're all very much on the IPA side, but again, Al liked it, so maybe give it a try. I'm pretty stoked. I've heard high praise on this one. Let's give it a shot. I can smell it already. It smells like fruit punch. You gotta be kidding me. That literally smells like fruit punch. I mean, I'm wondering, is this even gonna be a little too fruity for me? I don't like it if it's, you know, it still has to taste like beer for me, right? And if it has a fruit component, it needs to be done well. It needs to be, you know, not overblown with the fruit stuff. I can literally smell the fruit punch. It smells really good though. Well, we don't got the foam out on that one, huh? All right, let's give it a shot. This one's gonna get foamy on the foam on the nose. Quite fruity. 100% a fruit punch quality on there. I don't think it's too overblown for me. That's got just a fruit punch, like almost a Hawaiian punch, believe it or not. Red fruit kind of forward type thing. Cherry, kind of cherry strawberry, really just that fruit punch. This one leaning a little bit more towards kind of tropical fruit thing going on, which also your hops will give you a tropical fruit character as well. I think I might like this one better, but let's see. Let's have another sip and see. Both of these coming in at 9.5 alcohol by volume, so they're heavy hitters, which is pretty standard for your IPAs. They're a little higher than your standard IPA, I would say. This is going into your imperial or double IPA alcohol by volume. That is crazy. I mean, it almost makes me want to wonder if they used, this will not sound great, but it has such a fruit punch character to it that, is there an added flavor? Added flavoring in here? It says Imperial India Pale Ale with natural flavors. I'll have to do a little bit more research on that. If they didn't just straight up, I doubt they just added like a fruit punch flavoring. I really doubt it. So then where would that fruit punch be coming from, that flavor? Well, it'd come from your hops. It would come from your hops or the way that you brew it. That's good though. I do like it. I think I might like this one a little bit better, but that's not going to stop me from drinking this one. Also, believe it or not, as I'm drinking this New Belgium stuff, and I'm really happy about this, there remains a New Belgium-ish flavor that I do remember going all the way back to Fat Tire, which I like. That means there's consistency in the brewing, even though it's been taken over by a major producer. And that's just a little bit of the personality of the brewery. So the personality that I experienced in Fat Tire is still coming through on these New Belgium Voodoo Rangers. I'm stoked on that. That's awesome. So I'd highly recommend, guys, like I said, there's a whole range of the Voodoo Ranger series. Check them out. This one, I will say, probably my favorite. Man, this one's good. New Belgium Brewing, check it out, Voodoo Ranger. All right, my friends, my last segment tonight is Pairs With. I'm gonna go another direction like I have been. I'm gonna talk about music. Well, just this week, Friday, actually yesterday, Skrillex, one of the godfathers of modern American electronic music, put out a new album. Skrillex collaborates all over the place, a lot of singles. We don't get a full album from him very often. However, one came out yesterday, and I'm here to tell you, it slaps. If you're into electronic music at all, you need to give this a listen. Quest for Fire. Quest for Fire is the name of the new Skrillex album. I listened to it in its entirety. It is very, very good. It covers a variety of genres and different electronic styles, and has collaborations with artists like Missy Elliott, Fred Again, which I've talked about Fred Again in a previous episode. Super good Fred Again, one of my favorites. Noisia, Peekaboo, Josh Pan, Porter Robinson, and others, a bunch of others. So Skrillex, Quest for Fire, pair that up with your favorite alcoholic drink, and I will guarantee you a good time. Once again, thank you so much, my friends, for joining me on another episode of Boozin' on a Budget right here on Titan TV. I'll see you next week.